When the iPhone was released, boredom died along with a part of us. The part that can focus for extended periods of time. The part that can come up with creative ideas. The part that can be okay with no crazy external stimulation. In fact, out of all the people who clicked this video, only 50% are still watching because half of people can't stay focused for just 9 seconds. But I get it, right? I'm in the same boat as you. I can't even watch a 20-minute TV show without picking up my phone. Every single time we get bored and we pick up our phone or turn on the TV, we are obliterating our focus and creativity muscles and building up our stress and addiction muscles. That brain dopamine parasite, right, feeds on stimulation, and the bigger it grows, the more it damages us. Psychiatrists at Brown University were actually asked about what they think smartphone usage and screens' influence on depression and anxiety was, and one doctor said they attribute up to 90% of the damage to smartphones and screens. The scary part is that those who are designing these stimulation machines and apps and things like this know they're a problem. Steve Jobs wouldn't let his kids use the iPad. He banned them. Mark Zuckerberg won't let his kids go on Facebook or Instagram or any of these apps because he knows how powerful they are. So it tells me that these things probably aren't great for you, and they're probably even worse for those with developing brains, with some studies showing our brains keep developing until we're 25 years old. So how do we actually extract this brain-hungry parasite? I think of the thing from The Matrix and I get all skeeved out. Well, the cure is taking a really fancy laser gun and shooting it into your stomach. That's what we're gonna do for this video. No, please don't do that. The cure is boredom. According to researchers, it's not picking up the phone that's the problem, but it's our inability to be bored. And beyond simply decreasing our risk of stress, anxiety, and a whole slew of mental issues, being able to be bored increases our focus, creativity, problem-solving abilities, and even creating solutions for our lives. Okay, so we're gonna add boredom to our lives. Sounds exciting, right? Well, actually, it can't be exciting because we need to stay bored. When I get bored, I get excited, but I'm not meant to do that because I'm meant to stay bored. Okay, what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna secretly get excited about being bored, so I trick my brain into only being bored. But even thinking about that, I get a little excited. Okay, we'll start with being bored and maybe secretly excited. So a group of 4,000 Americans surveyed over 10 days found that Americans are bored only 2.8% of the time, with 63% of those Americans never being bored a single time over that 10 days, which means 37% of Americans are likely never bored. And this makes sense because boredom isn't fun. Nearly all research points to people that are bored try to not be bored. Not only in the moment are they trying to escape the boredom, but actually they're trying to figure out ways to avoid boredom in the future. That's how bad boredom feels to most people. But what does being bored mean? Does it mean waiting in line at the coffee shop, being stuck on the train or stuck in traffic, or even watching a Zach Highley video? No, it never means that. It never means watching a Zach Highley video. Actually, being bored is not what most people think. It's not having nothing to do, but psychologists at Texas A&M define it as the emotional indication to pursue an alternative goal, or simply not being satisfied with what you're doing in the moment and trying to find something else to do. And the physical attributes of this are lack of concentration, restlessness, feeling tired, a hunched posture, closed lips, open eyes with lids slightly drooped, and a pointless gaze. Let me see if I can do that. I feel bored. It works. However, interestingly, those that are bored are actually not physically slower. They may actually be faster, which is weird, right? You'd think when you were bored, everything slowed down. But evidence shows people's heart rate are faster. The electrical conduction of their skin is actually faster. And the sympathetic nervous system, the thing that makes you go wake up a little bit, is actually more activated in those people who are bored. Rats that are bored or understimulated actually move through a maze faster than those that are stimulated. So what's going on here? What is actually boredom doing to our brains? According to researchers, boredom seems to have two major overarching benefits. Number one, it activates this thing in our brain called the default mode network, which improves creativity and adaptation, which are actually physical, literally different parts of the brain that can be seen activating on functional MRI scans. That basically just means we can see which parts of the brain are turning on when we're bored. Now, the second thing is that it actually increases our autobiographical planning, which is basically just self-reflection or planning our life for a change. And this kind of makes sense to me, right? Just subjectively, I'm trying to think of the last time I was bored. Can you think of the last time you were bored? I think the last time for me was I was probably on a plane and we were about to take off, but then my phone died, so I had really nothing to look at, twiddled my thumbs a little bit, and then I just kind of looked out the window. And I remember when I looked out the window, I started to think about, okay, what are the things I'm gonna do when I land? What are the exciting stuff I'm gonna do? What's other things that I'm gonna do with my life after I land? And at that time, my DMN was probably being activated. And it seems this DMN is just basically these separate parts of our brain that are activated, and they are linked to kind of mind wandering and daydreaming and kind of gazing into space. It's when the world disappears except for your thoughts. And researchers are linking this DMN activation to kind of processing your life. Kind of like researchers think sleep is for processing memories and learning and things like that. Maybe this DMN network is for processing what's happening in our life so we can kind of figure out what the next best thing to do in our life is. In one study looking at 80 people, one group was asked to do boring things to activate this DMN, like copying numbers from a telephone book or watching a Highley video. Who wrote this paper? Cancel the video. We're gonna find out who wrote this paper, and we're gonna tell them that it's impossible to activate the DMN with the Highley video because you're just so excited. Okay, we're gonna move on. Another group was asked to do normal stimulating things before both took a creativity test. Okay, so one group did boring things and another group did not so boring things, and then they took a test on creativity. How do you test creativity? Well, they ask you ways to do weird connections. Like, for example, think of as many uses for a plastic cup as you can. But guess what? The bored group blew the stimulated group out of the water. They came up with tons more creative ideas in a statistically significant amount. And this is amazing to me, and I've read it in other research papers, but essentially when you give your brain a chance to rest, it's almost like the neurons are creating new neuronal connections or cutting off things that aren't as important anymore. Our brain is almost getting rid of the junk and focusing on the good stuff. Now, the second superpower that comes from this is the autobiographical planning. And this is simply life planning. And whenever you get this feeling of bored, which again is thinking of something else to do, it might just be your brain telling you to make a change that's positive for your life. So evolutionarily, right, when we were just hunters and foragers and getting berries and things like that, maybe you were a forager and you got a bunch of berries already, and then you were kind of sitting in the cave chilling out, and you thought, you know what, maybe I'll just go find some new berries, or work on building this new tool thing, or doing something else that might benefit me. But nowadays, the problem is this phone, this overstimulation has hacked our brain. It's hacked the DMN because it's way more rewarding in the short term for our brains to look at something exciting on our phone or on the TV. We've bypassed this essential default mode network in our brain. Instead of letting the boredom sit there, we instantly reach our phone and deprive our brains of the longer term and slower benefits of the DMN for the short-term excitement of the most recent celebrity. And I want to read a quote from the amazing book, The Comfort Crisis by Michael Easter, and he says, "The 11 hours and 6 minutes of attention we're handing over to digital media isn't free. It's all spent in focused or non-DMN mode." Think of this focused state, or non-DMN mode, like lifting a weight, and the unfocused, or DMN mode, state like resting. When we kill boredom by burying our minds in a phone, TV, or computer, our brain is putting forth a shocking amount of effort. Like trying to do rep after rep after rep after rep of exercise, our attention eventually tires just like our muscles when we overwork it. Modern life overworks the hell out of our brains. Our collective lack of boredom may be causing us to reach near crisis levels of mental fatigue. Research shows that the onslaught of screen-based media has created Americans who are increasingly picky, impatient, distracted, and demanding, as one media analyst put it. These terms fall under the umbrella of insufferable, and I agree. And overworked Under-maintained minds are linked to depression, life dissatisfaction, the perception that life goes by quicker, and increasingly missing the beauty of life that only presents itself when we allow our mind to wander and be aware of something other than a screen. Let that quote sit for a minute. We're overworking our minds. They've never had 11 hours of 7 minutes of digital media other than the past less than 50 years? Our brains weren't ready for this. And on a much smaller scale, this is exactly what I was doing when I was looking out of the window on the plane. Because I couldn't look at my phone and see kind of what the new recent Instagram stuff or whoever knows what the heck I look at on my phone, I was thinking about, what do I want my life to be like when I get off this plane? Maybe I want to go do some exercise. Maybe I want to read a different book. Maybe I want to go for a walk in nature. And again, those are good things that I was thinking about doing. But the idea was, the overarching thing was, I was thinking about ways in which I was going to redesign my life. The current state of sitting on the plane wasn't interesting to me. So maybe my body was trying to figure out ways in this bored state of getting out of that, of doing something else, of changing my life at a very small scale, right? And psychologists and biologists go one step further. They argue that this bored state sets off a cascade of events in our brain that helps us combat not only external problems, but also internal problems. But when we reach for our phone or reach for the TV remote, we're not giving our brain a chance to work. We're not giving it a chance to rest and work on the real problems in our life. We're hijacking that network. Or much more simply, maybe the stuff I'm doing right now isn't good for me. Let me think about some other stuff to do that might be better for me and how I'm actually going to get to those places. There's a lot more to this mind wandering than it just being daydreaming. Study shows that people who more frequently mind wander or daydream actually have better executive function, better working memory, and better overall cognitive performance. So instead of trying to slam another practice question set or read another book, just taking 10 minutes to just sit and let everything that you've been throwing into your mind settle might have huge implications. Okay, so these scientists have convinced me, at least, that I want to have more of this DMN time. I want to have more of this board time, and I want to have less of this super active, intense brain time. But how do I do this? I'm addicted to my phone. I picked up my phone 27 times when I was just writing this video. I've looked at it another 10 times when I'm sitting here recording it. I'm so easily distracted. The stimulation is winning so much. I mean, I've interrupted editing this video 37 times just to look at this phone. So really, there are only two things I need to do. I need to decrease my brain active time, and I need to increase my brain non-active time. So here's the way I'm doing it. So every time I do work, I usually work at 15-minute increments, and then I take a 10-minute break. But usually those 10-minute breaks are me going on my phone or me looking at something. What I'm trying to do recently is make those 10 minutes focused on doing nothing, on activating the DMN, just standing outside or walking outside without a phone, without noise, without talking to anyone, just letting myself be bored. So the other thing I'm doing is I'm decreasing the amount of time I spend in front of digital media. I've decreased my phone time from about 4 hours a day to around 30 minutes a day. And I outline this in another video, but basically I just leave my phone at one part of the house all day and only look at it once a day. The other thing I'm doing is once a day or once every other day, I'm trying to go for a 60-minute walk with no phone, no distractions, no podcast, no music, no nothing, just 60 minutes of me. Preferably, this is quiet time in nature, and this has like triple, quadruple benefits: exercise, nature time. Evidence supports that when you spend even this amount of time in nature, it decreases stress, anxiety, even decreases blood pressure. But here's the most powerful thing I've done, is I've changed my mindset towards boredom. So now when I feel bored, I don't instantly try and get rid of it by picking up my phone or looking at the TV. I actually know now from reading all this stuff that this boredom stuff is good for me. It's actually making me healthier and a better person. I'll cook lunch and I'll eat it alone without looking at the TV or my phone. I'll take the dog outside and I won't bring my phone. I'll just walk with her outside. I'll go for a drive and I won't turn on the podcast when I go somewhere, or audiobook or something like that. I'll just drive in silence. When I go to the gym, I'll lift weights, but I won't put on headphones and I won't listen to anything. I'll just lift weights. For those time in between sets, I'll just sit there and be bored. This has been the biggest change for me and has had the most dramatic impacts on my daily life. Realizing that this bored time isn't something to escape, but actually something to seek out. The inability to be bored has sucked the creativity and happiness out of our lives. Luckily, our brains are amazing and can be rewired. We can reclaim our focus, creativity, and calmness by just being okay with being bored, by taking a step back, by being still, by not pulling out the phone. This has changed my life. Counterintuitively, the answer to pretty much all the problems I've had in my recent life have been solved by subtracting things from my life instead of adding them. Subtracting my phone, subtracting music in the car, subtracting X, Y, Z. The more I was with myself and the less I was with pings, the happier I was. So the next time you sense your mind wandering, sitting in line at the grocery store, waiting for a friend to come back from the bathroom at the restaurant, don't immediately reach for your phone. Sit with that feeling. Be amazed at the thoughts and the feelings that come to the forefront of your mind. Don't try to direct them in any way. Break the mold. Be different. Don't let the algorithms trap you. Being bored isn't something to fear. It's the key to unlocking our most creative ideas and creating a more fulfilling life. Thanks for watching. I hope you weren't bored, but I do hope you add some boredom to your life, which is impossible in the time right now, right? Because you're watching a Zach Highley video, but anything else in comparison to this will be pure boredom. So that's my gift to you. You watch the best thing in the world, and now everything else, it seems like boredom. You're welcome. I'll talk to you later. I'll see you later, okay? Talk to you later. Thank you so much for watching, and I will see you in the next one.